Hello and welcome to the show. It is the Main Event 365 podcast, Detroit Lions football, made by musicians who love football. I'm your host at Main Event Mike, along with our producer, Russell Wayne. How you doing, Russ?
Russ is doing just fine. I'm at Russell Wayne. No.
Oh, sorry. At Russell Wayne.
I'm joking. I don't even know what I'm at. I'm at Main Event
You're at
365. I'm at home. Yeah, but look at those guitars.
Right on. So thanks for everyone for being on the program. It's another edition of the podcast. Unfortunately, is another loss for the Detroit Lions. Lions continue their road losing streak and extend that to 13 games as they lose to the Dallas Cowboys 24-6. And we are talking about it. And if you'd like to talk about it, head on over to our YouTube channel and check out all of our podcasts. And feel free to leave us a comment. You can also send us an email at themainevent365@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get into this loss, Russ. Crushing for the Lions, considering that for 3 quarters, I felt like we were kicking their ass. We were going up and down the field. And then we just had a meltdown in about midway through the third quarter. It just seemed to be a total meltdown. With 3 minutes left in the game, we were about to punch in the go-ahead score, and we fumbled at the 1-yard line. Just typical Lions stuff that just always seems to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. I don't know why. But 24-6, Detroit Lions lose. Any initial reactions from this loss?
Every single week, it seems like they make you happy for the majority of the game. And you're just feeling good, and you're feeling good, and you're just waiting for the bottom to fall out from underneath of it. And it does. And I looked at so many good positive things to lose the way that they lost.
Yeah, there are no moral victories. 1-5 is still 1-5, no matter how you got there. But the Lions are more competitive than I've ever seen them. There's more reason for hope than ever because this offense is still moving the ball. They haven't scored a touchdown in the month of October. They've only put up 6 points in the last 2 games. But they're not being outplayed Dallas only outgained us by about 30 yards in total yards. The Lions did win the time of possession battle. We did have 5 turnovers in the second half. And if you're going to point to anything for the loss, I think you're going to have to point to that. But I think the Goffense didn't look as bad as what media is out there saying today. I mean, this week, the Detroit radio media was absolutely brutal on the Lions. I heard one jockey say they were garbage, that this team was total garbage, and we shouldn't waste our time to watch them. And I heard that all over social media, too, that, oh, boy, what a terrible team. I'm never going to watch them again. And to those people, I say, good riddance. This is our team, and we're going to stick by them. We're going to try not to be a homer and not give them a pass when they stink it up. But we're not going to give up on them either. Are you ready to give up on the Lions and this Goffense?
Oh, absolutely not. You know, when I was before we started the show today, I was showing you my notes. And when I look back at the game again, I mean, I was encouraged by a whole bunch of stuff while I was watching the game. And honestly, I thought that the offense looked pretty darn good for, at least 3 of the quarters. They were moving the ball, and there was a couple untimely penalties and some weird stuff that had happened, but they were moving it down, getting into the field goal positions. And holy crap, did Dan Campbell kick a field goal? He said, "Let's kick a field goal. Hey guys, let's kick a field goal." I mean, so I felt that I was more encouraged than discouraged, but a loss is a loss, man.
Right. Jared Goff was 21 of 26, pretty darn efficient. We rushed for over 100 yards. We did control the time of possession. We were leading at halftime 6-3. We were only down 10-6 with 3 minutes left in the game, and we lose 24-6. So it was certainly closer than the final score would have you believe. The Lions looked like they were at least going to cover the spread, but it was not to be. A combination of turnovers and bad calls. It was a poorly officiated game the entire way. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They did extend their road losing streak to 13 games, but we do got some home cooking coming up next week. So now that we're 1-5, Russ, my question to you is, who gets the blame this week? Who's to blame? Who do we point the finger at? Those that got our sorry old Lions down this week.
Oh gosh, man. I don't want to like blame people. I hate doing that, but if you got to point the finger at it, it's, I love you, Jared Goff. I have defended you. So Jared Goff only had 5 incompletions on the entire night. Unfortunately, 2 of those incompletions were interceptions, and costly ones at that. And the meltdown at the end of the game, and it wasn't just Jared Goff, but I mean the fumble by Jamal, and just the meltdown, where, I mean, it really doesn't matter if you play good for 3 quarters and 6 minutes of every game. It's a combination. It's turnovers, Goff and Jamal, I would have to say, get the most to blame on this.
Okay. Well, the person who's not to blame, in my opinion, is Jared Goff. He isn't the guy that fumbled at the 1-yard line for the go-ahead touchdown. He's not the guy who with 3 timeouts in the first half decides to take a knee and let the clock run down because you're going to get the ball in the second half. I certainly think Dan Campbell had plenty of time and timeouts. He could have, at the end of the first half, he could have drove it down, tried to get another field goal, maybe at the very least. And I can't put that on Jared Goff. Jamal Williams has never fumbled in his career before this game. He's as sure as they come at the goal line. That should have been a gimme. That is just a fluke. So I'm not going to blame Jamal Williams either. And you know who I'm not going to blame? I'm not going to blame the Dallas defense, because we seem to handle them. Penei Sewell seemed to handle Micah Parsons, who's, don't get me wrong, he's a phenomenal player. I do, however, blame the coaching staff as far as Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, because Ben Johnson, some of these play calls were just stymieing me. I didn't understand why you would throw it to Khalif Raymond right at Trayvon Diggs, one of the best cover guys in the league. On a third down, you throw it right to it, right at him. Also, Jared Goff doesn't get the blame. One of the interceptions wasn't an interception. The ball clearly hit the ground. So I'm going to have to put it on Ben Johnson, some of these questionable calls. And I'm also going to have to put it on Aaron Glenn, because he wasn't able to stop them on third down, and his defense kept committing kept committing penalties on third down, extending drives for Dallas. So if anybody's going to get the blame on this one, it's got to go on the coaching staff, because I thought the players played their asses off for 3.5 quarters. What say you?
I mean, you make a couple very good points right there. And when I put blame on Jared Goff, I do that with I do it delicately, because he's playing out of his element when it comes with what he does well. And when you lose a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you don't have a playmaker like DeAndre Swift, and I'm sorry, I don't make excuses. I just tell it how it is. When those guys come back, I expect Jared Goff to play better when he has those playmakers back. But I agree with you on the coaching staff. I don't know about Aaron Glenn on this one, but definitely on the offensive play calling. But because I really say Aaron Glenn did a much better job, considering where he was and where he is now. Night and day difference on that defense.
Yeah, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't call out the fact that Jared Goff didn't have his full complement of weapons. And,
yes.
And when we say that, we're not just talking about one injured receiver. We're talking about his number 1 receiver, his number 2 receiver, and the number 1 running back. Those things matter, okay? Those things matter. And that's also affecting the play calling that Ben Johnson's doing. I mean, the offensive line was blowing holes through that Dallas defense. We were running the ball, but yet we seemed to throw an exorbitant amount of times. They came right out of the gate on the first drive, chucking the ball all over the field. And I just got to wonder, if that was part of the game plan or if he was just taking what the defense was giving him. But it definitely was a little frustrating when I know that we're running the ball and then we just go away from the run and we throw the ball right at Trayvon Diggs. So, you know what? It's been so depressing, Russ. Let's talk about the bright spots in this game. For me, there was definitely the defense played better. I thought the defense played better in New England when we lost 29-0. And I also think the defense played better in this game. They were up 6-3 at halftime. They had stopped Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in the red zone. Got a turnover in the red zone. Kudos to Kirby Joseph, definitely a bright spot. The rookie from Illinois, safety, almost had an interception, forced a fumble, made a few tackles, definitely getting his feet wet back there, and that was good to see. Definitely another bright spot was the way Jeff Okudah played, 15 tackles, 12 solo tackles. He was coming down in the box all game long, stopping the run. And we pointed to Okudah at the beginning of the season as a key performance indicator whether or not the Lions were going to do well. And he has not disappointed. He has looked like the third overall pick in the draft so far this year, and that's great to see. What did you see for bright spots in this game?
I was wondering if you're going to leave me any of them. To me, when I look at it, I touched a little bit on Wayne's word on Monday, but the Brad Holmes, I think Brad Holmes showed up in a big way when it came to seeing his complement of a lot of his draft picks playing well. Going back to last year, you look at Penei Sewell. I thought that he handled Micah Parsons, one of the best defensive players in the league, pretty well. I thought Aleem McNeil played decently. I mean, I think he's a solid defensive tackle. I think when you look at this year's first round pick, Hutchinson, Pascal being out there for the first time, Kirby Joseph being out there, Malcolm Rodriguez being out there. So I even took a note and I said, this is the future. This is the future of where we're at. All these guys are under 24, 23 years old. And that's a bright future right there. When you're looking at what Pascal and Hutchinson were able to do together. I think it's here to stay. I mean, I know that there's been a lot of ups and downs, but as long as those guys stay healthy, those three guys, I think that they're going to be a terror for the rest of the season.
Well, that's a keen observation. I'm so glad you mentioned Josh Pascal, second round pick from Kentucky, playing in his first game for the Lions. What did you see from Pascal there on the offensive line? And also, I'd like to hear you comment about John Comiskey coming back from injury and the impact he made on the game.
I think when you're looking from a point of depth, I think the fact that you have a bunch of guys, I even saw an Okwara sighting out there during the game. So when you're attacking on defense, you need to be able to bring in fresh guys constantly to go after those offensive linemen. And Pascal played awesome. I mean, he was annoying the entire day. He had 2 hurries. He had 2 tackles in his first game. I think that he had a PFF grade of like 69 or something like that, which anything over 60 is pretty, you're playing a pretty solid game for his first game. He played awesome. Hutchinson coming out of the 2-point stance, he looks like that might actually work out for him. So, and then Kaminsky's just one of those solid dudes. He does not show up on the stat line, but he plugs people up and makes you have to deal with him, which opens up opportunities for our playmakers on the outside.
Yeah, great call out there. Aiden Hutchinson. There was an Aiden Hutchinson sighting, and he had 1.5 sacks. And I think that's a direct result of the interior linemen, John Comiskey, Josh Pascal, Aleem McNeil, tying up blockers, freeing him up, coming out of that 2-point stance. He's so fast. I think that 2-point stance gives him an extra second to get by. And did you see the spin move? Oh, the spin move. Yeah, that took him by surprise. And I think Hutch is finding his way. It's tough being a rookie, and it's tough when they're game planning for you as a rookie. So, the Lions aren't very deep across the defense. So they're game planning for this big rookie defensive end. So great job by some of the defensive players. It was a heck of a lot closer than the score. Looks like 24-6. You can say what you want that the Lions gave up 24 points, but like I said, 3 minutes left in the game. They're about to punch in the go-ahead touchdown at 10-6. So definitely a heartbreaker. Definitely some bright spots, though. Tom Kennedy had a couple of catches. Brock Wright had his best game probably as a pro. So just inches away from scoring a touchdown there. Otherwise, that fumble wouldn't even have happened. Boy, I sure thought that was a touchdown. I know most people listening to this probably did too. But after replay, the refs got it right. He was a couple inches short. And then, of course, the fluke fumble at the goal line, just unbelievable. And a lot of people were saying the next day that fumble was same old Lions. This SOL narrative that's out there. Can't stand it anymore. This is not the same old Lions, okay? The same old Lions aren't competitive. Sure, crazy things happen. The refs kind of hose us sometimes. Those are same old Lions traits. Fumbling at the goal line, snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. That's a same old Lions thing. But the road is much different. This team is competitive. They're fun to watch. And we're excited every week for the game. And they played hard in Dallas. Dallas Cowboys walked out of there, I think, respecting the Detroit Lions a lot more. So is that a same old Lions? I don't think so. What do you think?
Well, I think that we fight. You and I are on the same team right here when it comes to supporting your franchise and being behind your team. And same old Lions, gosh, we fight it. We want to fight the good fight. And this was a blow. This was a very hard shot. If you're in the same old Lions camp, which I hate you, here's what I'll say about SOL. I wish that people wouldn't have that mentality because I don't believe in superstition, that type of thing. I believe that a man is a man, and it's a loser mentality to say that you're predestined to lose. And just because my grandfather lost in 1957 or 1958, it doesn't mean that I can't compete and win right now. So I don't believe in it. But when stuff like this happens, it's like the only thing that's going to cure that is winning. Maybe it is the refs. Do we move on to the refs? You got something else before we jump right into the refs?
The players and coaches can't comment about the refs, but we can.
Correct.
The Lions were penalized 8 times. The Cowboys were penalized 7 times. I thought there were some terrible calls against the Cowboys as well. The whole game was poorly officiated. Giving them an interception that clearly wasn't an interception was terrible. There were a couple of illegal contact penalties that there was no replay on. We didn't get to see it at all, and it just happened to be on third down. They had 3 penalties that resulted in first downs on one drive for the Dallas Cowboys. And there were some holding penalties on the Lions that when they showed the replay, it was ridiculous. I mean, absolutely ridiculous that they even called that. Oh, by the way, that just happened to be third down for the Lions. It sure sounds like an excuse. And that's another reason Dan Campbell can't talk about it as post-game press conference. He can't mention that he got hosed by the refs. But you and I can certainly point to these things and say this would have been a different game had some of those calls not been so egregiously bad. They weren't just little ticky-tack fouls that were called. This is absolute ridiculousness. And it had shades of 2014 against the Cowboys for me.
Well, so let me preface this first because we were talking about this earlier. We are not saying, I'm not going to say that they lost the game because of the refs, because there was a lot of other reasons that they lost the game. But in this situation, if you want to say that they had bad calls too, I think that that's a bunch of horse malarkey because there are bad calls on both sides in every single game. So I don't think that they cost the Lions the game. What I thought is they cost both fan bases a very good and appropriate ending to that game, which I think was a lot closer than the score had showed. So if hosed by the refs, I don't think they got hosed by the refs. I think the fans got hosed by the refs out of a game that could have been better if they would have just called it clean.
Yeah, well, you can say that if you want, but I think we got hosed by the refs on more than 3 occasions in that game. Moving on. If you want to point to something of why the Lions lost the game, it's real easy to point to the turnovers in the second half. Yes. You cannot turn the ball over 5 times in the half and expect to win that half. 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles, just absolutely bumbling, poor management of the football. And you're going to give the ball back to them 5 times. Of course, you're going to lose the game. Were those some heartbreaking turnovers, Russ, or what?
They were heartbreaking, and that's where I have to give Goff the criticism on those things, because you can be 21 for 25 or whatever you were, 21 for 26, and be incredibly efficient, and then just crap the bed at the end. The one interception he threw was really, really bad, and the one that we're not calling an interception, because it really wasn't an interception, but still, it was an awful throw that you would throw at the best wide or the best cornerback in the league at picking balls off. Even though I don't think that he really caught it, I think the refs did screw us out of that call. It was still a really dumb throw. So yeah. At the end of the game is when we need you the most, Jared Goff, if you're going to win these games. And I know that you're out of your comfort zone when it comes to playing like that and playing from behind, but that's where we need our leader to step up and be that guy. We can have average everywhere else, but man, you cannot turn the ball over, Jared Goff, Jamal Williams. You cannot turn the ball over in key moments anymore. You got that? Please. Pretty please.
Right. And Goff did look shaky in the pocket when the pressure was coming.
Yes.
And even though we're always praising the offensive line gave up 5 sacks. Okay. Some of those were coverage sacks because we're using 3rd string wide receivers out there.
Kennedy.
That's a Tom Kennedy. He gave up his shift at the factory to come in and go down to Dallas.
That's right.
And play that game. But 5 turnovers, you got to look at that if you want to put it on something for this loss. That's where I'm going to put it. 5 turnovers. Those were coverage sacks because of the play calling. You should have been able to see the defense, read the defense, and call the appropriate play. That's what we pay them the big bucks to do.
That's and that's where the playmakers come into play for Goff. When you have the different playmakers like Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown who understand spacing, it opens up a brand new like matrix kind of world for Goff when he's trying to figure out what play to do. Tom Kennedy's not going to be able to get open on quality NFL cornerbacks, which that's what Dallas has a bunch of. They play well on the back end. So, gosh, 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers. You can't turn the ball over that many times on a team like the Dallas Cowboys.
Right, and I've had enough of it. I've had enough talking about it. That's enough talking about the last disappointing loss. Let's look ahead to the next disappointing loss. Shall we?
Come on now.
And for all of our people out there listening, if you'd like to see this incredible video podcast and these incredible graphics that our producer puts up, like this next one that says Miami comes to Mowtown, you can go over to YouTube and look up the Main Event 365, and you can watch these 2 knuckleheads as they talk about these games as well. We really appreciate it. It doesn't cost a thing to subscribe, and we really could use all the subscribers that we can get at this point. So the Miami Dolphins, affectionately known as the Fish, even though dolphins are mammals, they're affectionately known as the Fish because I think
we'd be sleeping with the fishes, Mike.
They're the only sea animal in the NFL that I can think of. So what do you think about the Miami Dolphins coming? They got a high-powered offense. They got 2 of the best wide receivers, probably the best wide receiver tandem in the league. I mean, that moniker used to belong to maybe Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf or maybe some of these others, but I think it's hands down now. Tyreek Hill coming over from the Chiefs has made such a huge impact there in Miami. He leads the NFL in receiving yards at 773. He's number one. Also, his counterpart, Jalen Waddle's number 4 at 621 yards. So they are really lighting it up. Can our defense hang with them? Can our DBs, our thin secondary, hang with these guys? What do you think, Russ? What do you expect to see from Miami coming into Mowtown?
Well, doesn't that really depend on which Aaron Glenn defense shows up? If this defense that played on Sunday against Dallas shows up, I think that they can absolutely hang with them. I think Jeff Okudah is becoming one of the best corners in the NFL. And I honestly think that you can stick him on either Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill, and you can pretty much lock it up and say, okay, that's done. So what do? You're going to have to scheme the other half of it if you expect to win. So, but if the Seattle if the Seattle defense, the one that showed up when we played Seattle, Geno Smith looked like Joe Montana and Lamar Jackson had a baby, is that what it was? Now, if that defense shows up, then we are in trouble. We're in trouble, and I think that Tyreek Hill's speed is just going to be too much, and they're just going to score a whole bunch of points on us. So I think Miami's a scary team on offense. Defensively, I think that we'll be able to move the ball against them.
I think so too. And they've started to pick up their run game a bit. They average 85 yards a game rushing. But on this Lions 32nd ranked defense, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, these guys might be able to get it going. But I think the most intriguing matchup is what we just touched on. Those wide receivers for Miami against our DBs. Okudah is coming on, but this may be his biggest test of the year so far. I mean, he's already faced some good ones. Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson. I mean, just in the first 5 or 6 games, he's faced some really outstanding receivers. But Tyreek Hill might be in a whole new class. There might not be another guy like this in the league, like this guy. So it's really going to be interesting. I think it's the most intriguing matchup. And in your graphic says here, can the DBs handle the slippery fish?
Yeah.
I think the answer is no. I think the only way that's going to happen is if we can generate pressure on Tua, their quarterback, their left-handed quarterback from Alabama, who was having a good year before he went into concussion protocol. So if we can generate a pass rush, and not give him all day to sit back there and let Tyreek Hill get open, our pass rush needs to help these DBs out. That's the only way our DBs are going to survive this or have any success against these receivers, is if the defensive line's doing their job and cutting down, make Tua get rid of the ball early. What do you think?
Ding, 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 ding. You hit the nail right on the head right there. I mean, it all comes from the pressure. Can Kaminsky and Aleem McNeil crash the pocket in the middle of that pocket, making sure that you're not going to let Mozart get going and everything. And if you look at who Okudah has locked down and who he's struggled with. So he struggled with DK Metcalf because DK Metcalf is a big physical receiver that I really think he just kind of overpowered Okudah. But where Okudah excels is those guys that are quick on the lines, like guys like Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson and Devontae Smith, these guys that may have trouble getting off of the line against a guy like Okudah. So I think that Okudah is going to be able to lock down one of the two receivers. I think that their style kind of plays into how Okudah plays. So can they handle it? I don't know if they can handle both of them. I think that the main matchup is going to come from who's going to cover the other guy. Yeah. Like, how are they going to take the other guy? Because I really think that you're looking at two guys that are kind of almost the same guy, where either spot, if you throw it to them in space, you have problems.
Yeah.
You have two guys that are very, very hard to tackle. You have Mozart, who, if you get him out in the open open field, he's got that 4.2 speed, and he will run away from you. So lots of slippery guys, man. So
yeah.
I think that they can handle the slippery fish, with the caveat of what you said. We have to be able to get pressure.
Yeah, they have a lot of weapons outside of just the two outstanding receivers. Mike Gesicki's a great tight end, great pass catching tight end. He hasn't been used a lot this year. His numbers are way down from what they were projected to be. But as we've seen last week and the week before and the week before and the week before and the week before, no team gives up more yards to the tight end than the Detroit Lions. It is very possible that Mike Gesicki could go off for the first time this year against the Lions. And I think that's something that we have to be conscious of. Our DBs have to stay with those receivers, and our linebackers are going to have to stick with Mostert and Edmonds coming out of the backfield, and they're going to have to stick with Mike Gesicki, or they're going to beat you. If you lock down those wide receivers, they have more weapons that they can beat you with on offense. They do have the 10th ranked offense in the league. And that number would be higher had they run the ball more than they have. A lot of the games this year, they've been behind a few times and had to really pass their way out of it. I think they'd be ranked even higher had they run the ball more. Raheem Mostert's been getting an increased workload in the last 3 games. They came out of the gate because they signed Chase Edmonds to all that money. So they gave him the majority of the workload in the first few games. He did have some great fantasy value, plunging in touchdowns in the first few games. But after that, he just was slugging it down at 2.6 yards per carry. So they started giving more carries to Raheem Mostert, and he has turned it up to over 4.5 yards per carry now. He's only averaging 55 yards a game. But Mike McDaniel's a creative play caller. He comes from that Kyle Shanahan coaching tree with that zone blocking system. And we see what they're doing with Deebo Samuel out there in that system. So I really expect them to get creative against the Lions and kind of open it up a bit. We may see Tyreek Hill running. We may see jet sweeps with Jalen Waddle and that 10th ranked offense. But I think they're better than that 10th ranking. So the one thing that the Lions have going for them, though, Miami ranks 21st on defense. I think, like you said, we can move the ball on Miami. Red zone is going to be crucial in this game. We cannot come away with field goals. We have to come away with touchdowns every time we get in the red zone. We haven't scored a touchdown in the month of October, but we're playing the 21st ranked defense. I think our defense can hold down the 10th offense, and I think the Lions can win this game against this Miami team. What do you think about this Miami defense and offense?
Yeah, well, I think that you just gave the recipe right there, man. It's kind of like I've been listening to people all week talking about, oh yeah, look at what they just got happened to them, the Dallas, and now Miami's coming to town, and yeah, they got to deal with that defense. What defense? The 21st ranked defense? I mean, that tells me that we can move the ball on them. I mean, we looked like we were moving the ball just fine against Cowboys minus, I know we only scored 6 points, but that is, like I said, that's a very deceiving score when it comes to how we were actually moving the ball in that game. And then the 10th ranked offense, I heard you say all that mess about, oh, well, this and that happened, so it would have been better. No, it's the 10th ranked offense. If you're not running the ball, that means that you're passing the ball. So you're the 10th ranked offense, and it really does depend on which Detroit defense is going to show up, the Dallas defense or the one against Seattle. Against the 10th ranked offense, if the Dallas one doesn't show up, then we're going to have to be in a shootout, or else we're going to get blown out of the game.
And so much winning in the NFL is predicated on quarterback play. I am not sold on Tua Tagovailoa. He did have one explosion game where he threw 6 touchdowns or something. But he's the 22nd ranked quarterback coming off 2 concussions. The Lions can get some pressure on him. And concussion, a lot of players have said, a lot of it is mental, that you're worried about it when you're back there. You're worried about taking another hit. Right. Every time Tua gets hit, everybody in Miami gasps. So they do have Teddy Bridgewater as a backup, who's a very solid backup who's beaten the Lions before. So I think that, Miami doesn't scare me. And I don't think Dan Campbell and the Lions are scared of Miami one bit. And I think
it shouldn't be.
That, like you said, the defense is ranked 21st. The Miami Dolphins are giving up 358 yards in total offense every game. If the Lions can at least get to that number at home with home cooking in the home crowd, I think we can win this game.
Absolutely.
So what are your keys to winning, though? What do the Lions have to do to win this game? I know you might be rehashing some of the things we've already said, but I really want you to put it into perspective here. What do the Lions need to do to win this game? Matter of fact,
play 4 quarters of football.
Great call.
I say that we can control the line of scrimmage. I thought that there's nobody that's on that Miami defensive line that scares me like the Dallas defensive line. So I think that Dallas has a much better defensive line that we just faced. So I think our offensive line can handle what they're going to bring to us. I think it really does depend on whether we're going to get Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift, because that adds a dimension to our offense that you have to deal with. So the keys to winning is making sure that we have enough playmakers that we can get Goff operating the offense from a space perspective, being able to operate in space when they pull their safeties out to cover our speed guys, that we're going to be able to run the ball down their throat. From the defensive side of the ball, we need to get pressure on Tua. I think that he has a clock in his head and he may be overthinking some of the clock because he did get hurt in the way that he did. I think that they can frustrate him. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, and we're acting like they just beat the Buffalo Bills or something like that. They struggled against a very, very average team. I think that this team is very, very beatable, way over hyped for this week because we're coming off of a bad loss. Everyone just thinks we're going to get killed by everybody. I think that we do win this game.
Well, I'd like to point out, Russ, that the Miami Dolphins did in fact beat the Buffalo Bills this year. So they did give the arguably the best team in football their only loss. So that is something to be looking out for. They're not an opponent to be taken lightly. But the way the Lions have been playing lately, if they can just keep that up, I think that Miami's going to run into a world of trouble in Detroit. At some point, we got to be able to put 4 quarters together, like you said. The Lions just haven't been able to play complementary football. When the offense is rolling, the defense is terrible. When the defense starts to get it together, the offense is terrible. When both sides are playing pretty well, the coaching is terrible. One thing that's been consistent for the Lions is the special teams has been pretty good. Jack Fox has been booming them out of the building. He's been pinning the opponents back in their own zone. So that's one phase I feel like we're going to win. If we can just play complementary football for 4 quarters, we can beat this Miami team. And then this topsy-turvy year, the way things have been, of course, the team that beat Buffalo will lose to the Lions. So I think the keys to winning for the Detroit Lions in this game is, and this might surprise you, I think we need to run the ball. The best way to beat Tua and Tyreek is to keep them on the sideline. Let's eat up the clock. Let's feed the tight end with short passes. Let's run some bubble screens. Let's keep the drives long. Let's keep them in multiple, 11, 12, 14, 15 play drives. That's going to be the key to winning. And don't come out of the red zone without a touchdown. I think that's our keys to winning. Our defense can't be counted on. They're ranked 32nd in the league. So just hoping that they can contain Miami is enough. It's our offense that's going to have to outscore them for us to win this game. So now we're going to make predictions on the Lions. Well, the over and under on this game, Miami's favored by 3.5 on the road against Detroit. The over under is 51.5. So everyone's saying, doesn't that seem high to you?
Yeah,
it seems high to me. And Vegas is right more than me. Not more than you, but they are right more than me. And I see everyone around social media this week predicting a high-scoring game. Therefore, I'm going to predict a low-scoring game. I think the Lions win this game 17-10. I think that we get enough pressure on Tua, and our corners hold their own long enough that we're going to hold them down. And I say 17-10 Lions in the victory.
Wow, we're going to be all homers today.
I'm a homer today.
I am, yeah, because maybe it was our guest that we had on the Monday, the main stage. He just Reginald, you just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, man. It seems like you're really, really cocky, and you made a couple statements that I thought didn't make sense, where you just assumed a couple of things. So I'm really thinking that he's going to eat his words. I don't think that his defensive line is going to do anything to our offensive line, and I think that you're right. I think that we are going to run the ball down their throat, and then we're going to win time of possession by over 10 minutes, and that we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game 20-17, and we're going to cover that spread, and we're just going to go ahead and win it.
So Russell Wayne says, bet the under, take Lions in the money line. That's right. I like it. Time now for our lock picks. Russell, what are you, 6-2 this year? Because you lost last week.
Oh, my gosh. Do I get a chance to air my grievances on that?
Well, you lost. You had Green Bay laying some points to the Washington Commanders, who outright beat the Green Bay Packers. A shocker, in my opinion. And you lost. So that puts you at 6-2. Still an incredible, impressive record for an amateur prognosticator like yourself. Go ahead and lay it on Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron. Come on.
He doesn't care. He's high on ayahuasca right now. So
yeah. Whatever you're high on, man. I teed this up for you, bro. Let me like, I've hated you your whole career. I've given you lots and lots of stuff. And but I've always respected your ability to come back after bad losses. And you pick this time right here where you're going to buck that trend. And not only are you not going to cover against the crappy Commanders, you're going to get beat. You got beat by the Commanders. The Lions beat the Commanders.
It's my quarterback.
Oh my gosh. So we're getting into the lock picks. Gosh, I got to get serious. I can't believe I put trust into Aaron Rodgers.
I said you were 6-2. You're 5-2 through 7 games because Aaron Rodgers lost to the Commanders. I am now 4-3 because I won my lock pick last week. I predicted the Las Vegas Raiders would come off the schneid and beat Houston by more than 7 at home, and they did, in fact, cover that. So I am 4-3 on my lock pick. You are 5-2 on your lock pick, which is still stellar, my friend. Who is your lock pick this week? And I want everyone at home to pay attention to the Swam.
The Swami is about ready to start speaking. The Rams are at home getting 1.5 against
1.5.
The San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers with a full week of practice with Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and
number one defense in the league.
And the number one defense in the league. Ooh, I think that San Francisco is about ready to be operating on a tier that's a couple levels above where the Rams are operating. So, okay, I'm going to take the Niners. Go ahead and give me that 1.5. We're going to cover that, and we're going to go above and beyond. I don't even think it's going to be close. This is going to be a statement game for Christian McCaffrey. How are you going to stop that in the backfield when you got Deebo running one way and McCaffrey running the other? I don't know. That's going to be a problem for the rest of the NFL.
The number one motivating factor, I really like your pick, actually, Russ, and not because of Christian McCaffrey, but more of a revenge thing because of the NFC Championship game last year when the Rams beat the Niners. And I think the Niners are going to be looking for revenge. And now that Jimmy G's back under center, they seem to have, righted the ship. They seem to be clicking on all cylinders. Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches in the league. So I like the pick. You've got the San Francisco 49ers -1.5 on the road against the Super Bowl champions. So my lock pick this week is I'm going back to Dallas. Chicago Bears are a 9-point underdog going into Dallas. I think they're going to get smoked by Dallas. They just waxed the Patriots, and I think they're riding high on that. But Dak Prescott's going to have another week to let his thumb heal. They didn't have a great offensive showing against the Lions. I think they're going to come out and make a statement against Chicago Bears. And Chicago's just not going to be able to hang with all the pressure that Dak and the offense and that running game is going to put on the Bears. The Bears defense has been playing over their head, and 9 points is still a lot. But I think Dallas covered that against the Lions. They'll be able to cover that against the Chicago Bears. So my lock pick, Dallas -9 against Chicago.
And I'm not going to give you any crap for picking against Chicago, since they did just come in and wax the Patriots, because we were kind of saying that was the only automatic bid from earlier. But Chicago has came out and showed that, gosh, man, we should be jealous of that too, because it seems like all these rebuilding teams are finding ways to, win a couple games here and there. I'm a little bit jealous. I'll have to admit that.
Yeah. And I think the Bears put down a lot of tape of Justin Fields running. And I think that Kyle Van Der Esch and Micah Parsons and some of the lateral quickness that's on. I mean, that's like the strength of the Dallas defense is the lateral quickness. And even though Philadelphia beat them, they were able to contain Jalen Hurts in the running game. So I think Justin Fields isn't going to really have much chance. They have no receivers. Their quarterback is a college quarterback, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to stand a chance against Dallas. So that wraps it up for our lock picks. Detroit Lions lose to Dallas 24-6. Detroit Lions have the Miami Dolphins coming into town on Sunday. Everybody be sure to check out the Main Event 365 on Facebook. Don't forget, every Monday at 6:30 p.m. we do the Monday night main stage, and it's open mic night. You are welcome to put your comments and questions in. We have a panel of headliners that will answer and respond to your questions. And that streams live every week, every Monday at 6:30 into the Facebook group. Head on over to our YouTube channel and click subscribe. For Russell Wayne, I'm Main Event Mike. God bless you all. Peace out.